Manchester United can never, ever, ever make the win easy because from the get-go of this game was a game destined. It was looking like that demolition game, that kind of Liverpool 7-0 win against Manchester United, that kind of, demolition game. That 6-3 Man City win against Man. It's funny how I'm only mentioning our ridiculous defeat. That's to show you how long it's been that Man United had that trashing win. But as always, Manchester United look for ways to make it difficult. Casemiro. But nonetheless, before we get into the game proper, to the Chelsea fans out there, there's a reason why you all have not won at Old Trafford in what, 13 years or 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. Since 2013, you guys haven't won at Old Trafford. Today was the day that proved that you guys are not ready to win at Old Trafford, even despite the fact that we played the game into a fair play. Because before I go into the criticism, I would say that yes, Chelsea squad had the red card at the very beginning, but nonetheless, the game was evened up for pretty much a full half, and you could see that Man U really took over the game. Man U from the get-go controlled the large or the majority of the rhythm of the game. And Chelsea, being Chelsea today, I feel like the squad is not actually looking as built up as we thought during the transfer window, because now it's beginning to show that this Chelsea squad is having a lot of young players, a lot of players that are like, they're still far off what should be starting in the Chelsea 11. Because the Chelsea I watched growing up, they had players, they had Lampard, Drogba, like matured players, players that you would meet on the pitch and you know that yes, this is a squad. But today, looking at the entire Chelsea squad, it was just a whole lot of kids, a whole lot of kids. But so let's get into the game proper now. Amorim honestly started off this game with a risky starting 11. Playing Casemiro and Fernandez. I still keep saying it. Fernandez playing in that position doesn't help. If at all Fernandez would play in that position, then he's to partner with somebody you can rely on. You can see that Casemiro, and all due respect to Casemiro, because he's a legend of the game. You can't take that away from Casemiro. He has won 5 Champions Leagues for a reason. It's not his fault that Manchester United bought him for 70 million from Real Madrid, So he's the kind of player that should have moved on to the likes of MLS, Saudi, place where he'll just go enjoy his football and all. This whole high intense Premier League game, I don't think Casemiro is cut out for it. So, with all due respect to Casemiro, you can see that he's not the man to play that deep midfielder. He doesn't. He's now looking more erratic in the midfield position, that defensive role, because of the system one, and because of his age too, and because he has dipped in form in terms of his pace, his tracking back, his following up with players. You can see what led to that unnecessary yellow card, even though I felt it was harsh. But nonetheless, if Bruno is to play in that position, I feel like Bruno needs that person that can allow him go forward and then come back at will. So Amorim started off with a very dicey midfield. If he had maybe gone with Meno and Casemiro, maybe that way there would have been some sort of balance, because Meno wouldn't be going as much forward as Bruno does. So Amorim got that part wrong. But in the idea of these players like playing the game like they want to play for the manager, I feel like this is why sack has been dragged on for too long, because Man United players always turn up in times like this, when it seems like the chips are down, when it seems like they're the underdogs, when it seems like the manager's job is under threat. That's when you see these players stop, and then you ask yourself, where have you been? You see Dogu today sending in beautiful crosses. You see what's his name, Delete, putting up a top. Even though you say Delete has been one of those players in Manchester United that has really held down his starting position, because he has been one of the most impressive defenders we have. Maybe after him you can call Maguire. Maybe after him you can call Euro. So I would say that days like this, you can't really. That's what puts us Manchester United fans in a dicey position, because we can't really read too much into this game. But nonetheless, we celebrate the win. So enough of the little criticism here and there. Let's get into the positive. We started out this game with high intent. I don't think Maresca kind of expected the intensity at which we started this game with. I feel like Maresca was looking out for the fact that they would, they would have time to get in shape, maybe absorb whatever pressure it is that the Man United players are coming, maybe for the first 5-10 minutes, and then from there they would build. So I feel like Maresca, in his part, underrated the Man United team. And I mean, you can't blame him. We've not been in the best of form. But still yet, there's a reason why Chelsea has not won Old Trafford in like, what, 12 years. So the game started off with Man United being in the front foot. We kept on pressing. And then a chance came for Bayern there to play out the ball all the way to Sesko. And then Sesko winning it off, I think it was Chaloba. And then Buemo on the run, 1v1 Sanchez. And then Sanchez making a very immature goalkeeping decision there, because I don't think there was ever a chance of Sanchez, getting the ball. You understand? So, and big ups to Mbuemo too, because Mbuemo really puts his decision making there is one that we've not really seen from our attacking players in a while. Is one that I believe if it was Garnacho in that position, for example, that ball was probably gonna be outside the pitch. You understand? So big ups to Mbeumo there, and then that was obviously a well-deserved red card, in 5 minutes. And I think that red card was what changed the rhythm of this game, because you notice after the red card, it was as if Maresca started to lose it. He lost composure, because if at all Chelsea were going to get a result for this game, it was most likely going to be a draw, seeing how the game panned out from after the red card. Man U and Casemiro losing composure and also getting red card and being 10 man down. So it ended up being 10v10. I believe if Maresca didn't make those erratic substitutions, because those substitutions he made took the game, he took his formation from the initial formation he started with, he went into a 5-3-1. From a 5-3-1, he went into a 3-5-1, depending on how Chelsea played with and without the ball. So if Maresca had made his substitutions, with a little bit more patience, probably he would have taken control of this game, because it got to a point where Manchester United started to play a little bit off the ball. They started to lose passes. Chelsea started to play the ball in between the line. You could even see Reece James. Honestly, there is no player like Reece James in Chelsea squad, because if Chelsea had like four of Reece James, they'll be winning the league this season, even despite with the kids around the squad. If Chelsea had four of Reece James, you could see how the crosses and that's why I keep struggling to understand why Maresca plays or starts Gusto over Reece James. Yes, we could see that James started to struggle with his fitness towards the end of the game, even when he lost the ball and then Fernandez had a run through to go, and then he played the shot that Jorgensen saved. But nonetheless, I believe Reece James should be the primary starter of that right back, and then maybe afterwards, as the game goes on, you substitute Reece James and bring in Gusto. But you could see that as the game kept going on, Maresca realized that those three substitutions he made in a rush didn't help the game. And I think in the Premier League history is the first time that there is a three-man substitution in the first 20 minutes of a game. So that did not help the situation, Maresca rather. So I think the first substitution there was Estaval. Yeah, Estaval for, let me clarify that real quick. So the first substitution there was Estaval for Jorgensen, because yes, Sanchez got the red card, and then the follow-up substitution, which was almost immediately, was Neto and Tosin, and then the third substitution was Palmer. Yes, Palmer for Was it Gusto? Yeah, Palmer for So it was Palmer for Santos. So that kind of took the game to a completely different direction. So let's talk about the goals. After the red card, we saw you know, Man U started to pick up the pace, started to build in attack. The possession at one point was about 78 to 20, 78 to 20, 78% possession to 22%. So, Man U was completely in their front foot towards winning this game, and not just winning the game, but winning by a large margin. So the first goal came from, who was it? It was Mazraoui's cross in, and then Dogu's header down to Fernandez scoring his 100 goal for no, yes, 100 goal for Manchester United in 200 appearances. That is a wild achievement in this current poor Manchester United squad. Bruno has scored his 100th goal in 200 appearances, and that's to show you how much of a leader in some sense that he is, and that's to show you how much attacking threat he is. So still proves my point that Bruno cannot be in that sitting defensive midfielder position. So moving on, the Chelsea, I guess the Chelsea players were struggling to adjust to the formation changes that Maresca was building, but majority of this game was played in the first half. So that's why giving more focus to the first half. Moving on to the second goal, came in for Casemiro scored the goal, I think in the 37th minute. Casemiro scored the header, and then that was from a deflected cross. I don't know if it was short or maybe it came off through a Chelsea player, but it was a deflection on there to Casemiro, and then Casemiro was clean through header, back of the net goal. Man United up 2-0. Building momentum, we kept on building momentum, we kept on building momentum up until extra time was 9 minutes in extra time. As I believe Man United fans were so happy seeing that 9 minutes in the first half, because it was looking like a game that was just going to build on to a 3-0 first half win. And then Casemiro decided to happen. Casemiro, I believe, in that situation was, yes, you can say the yellow card was a bit harsh, but going by the rule of the game, he had his hand on the player, in an advanced attacking movement. So by that rule, you would say gonna be he wasn't going to not get punished, but you can see the reason why it was harsh. But irrespective of that, Casemiro should have done better. Like, you are an experienced player for a reason. You are a player that has probably played the most games. In fact, not probably, he's the one that's played the most games currently in the Man United squad. I don't mean for Man United, I mean as like in his career as a whole. So why would you in that position see the need to bring the player down? You're one man ahead of Man United. I'm sorry, ahead of Chelsea. You are 2 goals ahead of Chelsea. So that was so unnecessary, because I'm sure Amorim had in mind that Casemiro was not going to come out in the second half, because I want to believe that any manager that has seen the trajectory of Casemiro in the Man United 11 would see that whenever he plays, he's very erratic, especially when he's already on a yellow card. There is no guarantee that Casemiro will finish that game without getting a second yellow, because there's no even guarantee of Casemiro playing the game without getting a straight red, seeing how he's so aggressive in lunging into tackles and all that. So we saw the frustration on Amorim's face. Well, the moment he saw that Casemiro was handed a second yellow card, he threw the bottle, because it was so unnecessary. But nonetheless, we went into the break. The players came out for the second half, was just a game of fouls, yellow cards, not too much to say or to really enjoy in the second half, up until the Chaluba's goal, which came, I think, in the 80th minute. And that was supposed to lead onto something, but the fact that Maresca had taken out most of his attacking players, and then one thing I would give Amorim credit for in this game was that he, despite being one man down, he didn't go defensive. All his substitutions were either to replace a tired defender or to, you know, keep the attack going. And that's what I will appreciate him for, because maybe the Amorim of the end of last season would have taken out maybe Buemo, and then brought, because you saw the moment where he wanted to take out Umbuemo for, I think it was, he wanted to take out Umbuemo for Cunha, right? And then, all of a sudden he was hesitating. He changed his mind, I think, the last second before even the player came off the pitch. And I think that was the point where he realized that Maresca was going defensive more and more, despite the fact that Man U were also one man down. So I love the faith he put in his players, because removing Mazarawi and letting Ahmad play that wing back position was a fantastic decision. Bringing in Mount, bringing in Euro for a Maguire that was already getting fatigued, and also he was already getting a lot of unnecessary interaction with Pedro. And I believe it was only a matter of time before Maguire either got a yellow card or a red card, seeing how Pedro kept on pressing on him and pressing on him. So bringing in Euro for energy, and also, to give Pedro something else to think about, was fantastic for Amorim. And then we then saw how the Chelsea player started to show fatigue towards the end. So this run of features for Chelsea, especially the fact that they really went on far in the Club World Cup and they barely had enough rest before the season started. So you could see the fatigue show, especially James. And James was that one and only threat for Chelsea in the game, because his crosses kept on disturbing Dogu. It was his cross that led to the Chalobah's goal. Like, James was on it up until fatigue set in, and then he made that error for Fernandez, and then also towards the end where he had lost his breath, he couldn't chase the ball and all that. And it wasn't just James; the Chelsea players as a whole, they were fatigued, and you can also put that fatigue on the fact that Man United were on the front foot for majority of the game. And then at the time where, when a team is sitting back chasing the ball, you burn more energy. And you can see the work Amorim is doing with the players in terms of how they keep the ball when they are with the ball. And I believe he's putting more work into the players, keeping the players with the ball than the players without the ball, because Man United players are almost 100 times better than we were last season with the ball, than compared to how we perform when we are without the ball. Like, we get played through almost easily. So I believe if Amory can get these players or this formation or tactics to the point where we are 50% as good as we are without the ball as compared to how we are good with the ball. That's if you can be half as good without the ball compared to when we are with the ball, then I believe the team is set to achieve greater things. So moving on, the game kept on going. I believe this game should have probably ended 3-1 based on the chances that we had. And then Sesko, speaking of goals, Sesko in that first half was completely lost. But I think the players are still yet to play to Sesko's strength. And this game, like I said, if Casemiro had been more matured, I believe this game should have ended with a Sesko scoring at least. Even if it doesn't end with that, mad high score line, I believe Sesko would have gotten a goal in this game, because there was a chance where Fernandez, I believe if we had taken more of our chances in that first half, maybe the game wouldn't have been frantic the way it was in the second half, even if we got the red card, because there were chances in the first half where players would have made better decisions. I believe Fernandez had a clean pass to Ahmad, but he chose to pick out Sesko because maybe in his defense he was trying to play Sesko on to get his goal scoring numbers up to a chart. But I believe he should have done better by squaring that ball to laying off the pass to Ahmad, and then Ahmad would have had a clean strike to go. And then big ups to Jorgensen too, because Jorgensen pulled off with some impressive save. I wouldn't give so much blame to Sanchez in this game, although that was an immature goalkeeping decision in that position. But nonetheless, I believe Chalobah should have done better against Sesko. So my man of the match for this game, despite the fact that he didn't finish the game, will be Mbeumo, because that moment alone was what gave us this win. And then coupled with the runs he was making, he was a threat, a constant threat to the Chelsea defense. His passing, the way he keeps the ball, the way he drives with the ball. Mbeumo and Cunha are the only players we have now in Man United that can drive with the ball. I'm still not convinced with Ugarte, but I would say my man of the match is Mbeumo. Then you can give it to Bruno too for scoring the goal, but for me, it's and then another big ups to Amorim for substituting Bruno Fernandes, because I keep saying it, we don't need to keep Bruno Fernandes on the pitch to play the entire minutes of the game. Bruno is the kind of player that he doesn't know when to stop. Like, he doesn't know when to turn off the switch. He would always want to keep making those risky passes. For example, towards the end of the game where we had a clean, I think it was a clean counter towards Chelsea's goal. I saw how I think it was Ahmad who moved the ball towards the corner flag instead of squaring it to. Yes, that he could have squared the ball through to the middle and then would have gotten a third goal. But in that moment, it was more reasonable to run down the clock than to chase after a goal. But I'm sure Bruno in that position would have flung in a very beautiful nonsense, probably not on target pass, and then Chelsea would have had the clean counter to our goal, and then probably two. That's a draw. So I love the fact that Amorim took out Bruno the time he took out Bruno. He made the game a bit more compact. And then the two teams playing 10v10, it really there is not much of you're not really going to get as much excitement because now the two teams are compact. There is no one is taking so much risk, and that was really what made the second half nothing to write home about. So I'll give my player ratings real quick. Bayenda, that save he made in extra time, that cross from Reece James across the defensive line of Manchester United, that save alone gives Bayenda a 9.9 because Onana, I don't care the motivational speech Onana is giving at Travels or wherever he is. Onana in that position, I can bet anything 2-2. So Bayende, 9.9. Yes. Because even the first goal was not his fault. Who was it that was there that should have done better? Ahmad, and that was the wrong pairing. Pairing Ahmad and Chaluba. Ahmad having to defend against Chaluba was just like there was no match. That was a complete mismatch. The height difference there is ridiculous. So you can't even blame Bayenda for the goal. Moving on real quick, I'll give the defensive line as a whole because I don't want to grade the players individually. The video is just going to get more longer. So the defensive line, I'll give it a 8.5. Despite conceding the goal, I'll give it an 8.5 because Delete is was the standout player in that defense today. Maguire too, but Delete was a standout defensive player there today. And then Dogu, you can see Dogu is working on his crosses and all of that. So I'll give that defensive line 8.5. The midfield, Bruno, give Bruno like a 7.5, maybe or 7.7. Casemiro, he's got a goal, got one yellow card, added the second one. So he had a complete, beautiful nonsense performance. So we'll just keep Casemiro because of his goal. Now we can call his goal a winning goal, even though his goal is what stopped us from properly enjoying this game. So we'll give Casemiro maybe like a 7. No, what am I saying? A 6.2. Let me not be too angry. Let's give him a 7. Then our front three. Ahmad played from the left. He started playing as the left hand. When was the right hand, and then Sesko. So Ahmad, that left hand didn't really. I started to notice Ahmad when he switched to the right side. So we still give Ahmad like a 7.5. Mbeumo 9.5. Sesko, you might as well just say he didn't play the game, but yeah, just he started with a 6, so we'll just leave it at that. Because it wasn't his fault. He got substituted off. And then for the Chelsea players, the only standout player in that Chelsea squad today was Reece James. I just hope he wouldn't be injured, and I'm very certain that he would not be playing their midweek game against Lincoln City or something like that. But now Maresca is under serious, well, maybe not too serious, but now, the fans are beginning to, because now it's winless in 3. I believe a draw against Brentford, a loss against Bayern, and now a loss against Manchester United. A poor Manchester United for that matter. So, yes, what else am I missing? Amorim. I believe Amorim has escaped today. We'll keep waiting and see. Hopefully, we can. I mean, as Manchester United fans, we've been saying this for a long time. Hopefully, we can build on this. Hopefully, we can build on this. But I still wouldn't lose faith. Hopefully, we can build on this, and then our next game, we'll see what we can get from it, and then hopefully we can maybe get back-to-back wins for the first time in Premier League. Although today, Manchester United have gotten their first back-to-back home Premier League win since November last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, or was it 2023? Can't remember what I saw, but I know for a fact that this is our first home back-to-back wins against Amorim. Sorry, for Amorim in Manchester United, and we hope for what comes next. Garnacho, I saw Garnacho at the beginning of the game. He looked like he was so confident that he was going to come onto the pitch and then explode and then maybe get the hat trick or something. But as soon as Chelsea got that red card, you could see how deflated he was, and I could enjoy the fact that he did not get any form of, what would you say now, any form of excitement coming to Old Trafford. The fans didn't give him excitement. He didn't come on the pitch at all. Maresca didn't consider him as an option. So we'll see what next for Maresca as we move on to his next coming games. So guys, that brings me to the end of my match reaction. Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1.